Welcome to our panel, Decoding Financial Planning. I'm really excited to be here. We have a killer lineup of speakers. And I want to just get right into it and open this up with like a definition of what is financial planning? Where are we today? I want to kick it over to you, Brian, and have you just launch us on that.
Great. Nice small question to get us started. What is financial planning? Everyone has 3 hours? No, what is financial planning? It's helping our clients achieve funded contentment. It's helping our clients understand if they have the ability to underwrite a life that's meaningful to them, and then all of the particulars underneath in terms of short-term cash flow needs and things like that. But big picture, financial planning is enabling our clients, our friends, people in our community to live the life, to afford the life that they want. Sometimes that vision isn't fully articulated, and so the role of the advisor, which we're going to talk about, has evolved over time to help clients define that life, to live up to their values and their vision, and help get them there.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that too. A definition that really resonates with me is produced by an academic, actually. Stu Heckman, who's the PhD director at Texas Tech of their personal financial planning area, he defines it as the process of establishing financial goals and managing resources in ways that are expected to promote health. And you note it's not financial health or financial wellness, but health, period. The World Health Organization defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. And as financial planners, that is what we're doing. We are guides to our clients in helping them achieve that complete mental, physical, and social well-being. That's a huge responsibility and a huge privilege that we have with our clients.
I'll jump on that too. I think that's the art of planning. But I would say too, it's a great opportunity as advisors that's an engagement model to get deep in that relationship with your clients. So planning is looking for an outcome and in a plan, and we want to ensure that financial security. But it's a great tool to just have that conversation that maybe you wouldn't otherwise have. And really deepen that overall relationship with the client.
James, you run your own business, and I'm curious about how you approach financial planning. What are the perspectives that you bring?
Yep. Thank you, Andrea. Well, I started my practice in 1998, and fundamentally, my approach to financial planning has not changed. It's to put the client's interest first at all times, act as a fiduciary, and continue to learn about the client and use tools and resources that I know to help the client reach their goals. So it's constantly putting the client's interest first. Fortunately, in our profession, we are well compensated for what we do because of the body of knowledge that we have, the education, the experience that we bring to the relationship. But ultimately, I'm a financial planner because I love people, not because I love money. And having that perspective, coming to work every day, asking the question, how can I help you, is what I believe financial planning should be.
Can you give I'm so curious about can you give a specific example when someone comes to you, how do you make sure that you're targeting, what you're providing them to the person?
Yeah. So, it all starts with listening and asking really great questions. Clients come to me with all sorts of different issues and ideas, goals, aspirations, and it's listening to those goals and aspirations and me providing what I know and my experience working with other clients, meeting with people like other financial planners, learning from them and bringing their experience to that relationship and providing advice that's in their best interest.
Thank you. I feel like there's a big gap between people who seek financial planning and those who are actually able to get it. And I was wondering, Jennifer, can you talk to us a bit about how do we broaden access to financial planning today?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we recently commissioned some research on this. We went out and surveyed advisors and really asked about client engagement and technology and just overall needs. And what was really alarming in that research was that 80% of the advisors felt that the advice gap had widened in the last 3 years, and so. It also said that 3 out of 4 Americans also feel they have a need for advice, and so that's pretty shocking. There was also a high number of like Gen Z, millennials also feeling the need for advice, but not really actually actioning on that. And so there's this gap that happens, and some of that came out to show also that many of them didn't feel like maybe they had enough money to have an advisor, or they didn't really know where to go find an advisor. And so that's definitely a different segment of the market. And, everyone serves different size clients. So it was a kind of an awakening to say, okay, there is a huge need. There's a desire, but maybe not a path there. And so, I work for a technology company, and what we're always thinking about is, okay, how can we make it more available? I think we all feel passionately about the importance of planning. We've got to do the right thing for clients, but how do we make that more accessible? No matter if you're, a younger, and those early years matter so much. You've got to get it right, and so that's where I think we spend a lot of time just talking about technology, and it's like, how can we leverage it to make it more accessible? I also think planning, and I'd be interested in your perspective as well, James, is that it used to be the financial plan was like this big event, and it was this big report that would live on the desk. And I think what's really beautiful in the world we're in now is it could be dynamic, it can be interactive, it doesn't have to be one dimensional. It could be ongoing, it should be ongoing, and it's like, how to leverage that technology, but also make it more accessible, I think is something that, it's going to continue to progress, but I think we're moving in the right direction. That's the hope I see in this, as far as planning goes, but just advising clients, and it's not just, it's not just the dollars and cents too. There's this whole holistic, you talked about health, there's other parts to it that go into it as well. So anyways, that's just a little bit of the viewpoint. Widening access to financial advice is paramount. Okay, so as advisors and those that work with clients, it's like, okay, well, how do we get more efficient so we can spend more time doing that? And that's definitely where I see the trend going.
Well, yeah, I can speak to your question. Certainly, there was a time when financial planning was used as a marketing term to sell securities and life insurance. Let's celebrate and acknowledge that we've come a long way since then. And there was also a period where the financial plan was a deliverable. And that's what made you a financial planner. That's no longer the case. We're moving away from that as well. We're not map makers. We don't hand our clients a map and say, here's the map, go ahead and do what you, follow the map or don't follow the map. We're guides now. We're guiding our clients through their financial journey, through their entire life. Things change. Once the financial plan is produced, the next day it's changed because the market's changed, the client situation changes. So we are there as guides to guide them throughout their financial life. And I think what you said is so important about the need for competent and ethical financial planners from the beginning of someone's financial journey all the way through the end of their life. Traditionally, there's a large segment of our population that is underserved by financial service providers because we've been set up to only serve those who've already accumulated wealth. Thankfully, there are new business models that are burgeoning now that help financial planners and allow financial planners to serve those who don't have wealth yet. Subscription-based models, hourly fees, flat fees, all these new burgeoning models are being developed and being utilized by financial planners to help people who have not accumulated wealth. And my vision is for every individual to have financial planner throughout their life. Those are the kind of things that will help achieve that goal.
And you just think about how far we've come and how quickly. I mean, this was only a generation or two ago, mostly a brokerage business. We were selling securities. I call what we've all been on the arc from Gordon Gekko to Brene Brown. Blue Horseshoe loves Anacott Steel. He put his best. Bud Fox was a financial advisor, right? He put his best clients into his best ideas. Didn't really work out for many of his clients, didn't really work out for Bud Fox either. Fast forward a generation, we are focused on the mechanical pieces or elements of financial planning, the portfolio, the insurance, the estates, optimizing for taxes. But James has put it perfectly. We are now in the world of being guides. We're helping people along life's journey. You're right. The only thing that we know about the plan is that it's going to be outdated very, very shortly. And the way the human species has survived and thrived over the years is that we adapt. And so the modern planner is increasingly well equipped to have that adaptive mindset and to bring clients along the way.
I want to stick on this topic of access for a little bit because, Jennifer, as you mentioned, I think for Gen Z and millennials, oftentimes they just don't even know where to go. And when I told some of my colleagues that I was moderating a panel on financial planning, it was surprising how many journalists, outside of the business section, were like, "Oh my God, I really need to get a financial planner." And a lot of these people are like in their 30s, some of them even in their 40s, and I was surprised at how many just didn't have anyone to talk to. And I think there's like a shocking number of reporters they're like, my money just sits in my savings account and that's it. So how do you guys get the word out to let people know, like, you're available, you're for hire? Like, how do we actually bridge this gap?
I mean, many advisors are not for hire for people who don't have a sufficient amount of assets. I mean, we should be real about what the scenario is. We need our businesses to be profitable. I mean, James is the one advisor on the panel, so he should speak to this. Yes, there's some experimentation with flat fees, hourly rates, retainer models, but I'd be curious to get your view on, how much in their nascency you think those are. I don't think they're terribly widespread, so I think there's going to be a massive advice gap until we figure out fee models that can be profitable for wealth management firms.
Yeah, so just a couple things. Andrew, you touched on it. Only 35% of Americans hire a financial advisor now. And out of that 35%, less than half have a financial plan. So there are relatively few Americans that actually engage with a financial planner. The question about how do we get young people to access financial planners is one that we're trying to solve. And right now, if you look at the data, 73% of advisors work on an AUM basis. But these AUM advisors are experimenting with other forms of compensation, like hourly. So they're mixing their compensation models to be able to serve people who have not yet accumulated wealth. And I don't have the exact stat with me, but many of those firms that even have mixed hourly and AUM fee models are experimenting with other models like flat fee for financial planning advice. So, for your colleagues, they're out there. There are planners who are serving those type of people. You just have to go out and look for them.
Brian, do you want to talk a bit about how this industry is evolving?
Yeah, it's evolving in multiple ways, and it's evolving quickly. I mentioned earlier that it was only a generation ago that this was a brokerage, mostly a brokerage business, buying and selling of securities. And there's been a layering of functions that we've seen, each with implications for the advisor experience as well as the client experience. So, we started with this, brokerage selling. Then in the 90s, this became increasingly an allocating and an investing business. It's about fund selection. It's about building better portfolios. things like that. Yes, there have been certified financial planners starting in 1971, or give or take a year or two. Thank you, James. 1973. But planning as a big business has only been like this for a relatively short period of time. It sort of accelerated after the GFC, and part of that is virtuous because having a plan is a good thing. Part of it, for big firms that I know that we work with, the plan is a form of recurring revenue, and so you set the plan, and then in 366 days you pay X number of dollars to renew the plan, and the C-suite likes that recurring revenue is there. So I actually think we're still relatively early in the planning business. That said, I think a lot of people here are in this space. And then I think the leading edge is moving from planning to coaching. I would say most financial advisors don't want to become full-blown life coaches, but in what we do at Shaping Wealth, we see that many advisors would like to introduce effective coaching techniques into their advice practice, precisely so that you can be a better guide, you can ask better questions, you can listen to what is being said, you can hear what's not being said. Those coaching techniques, the fact that we don't have a good word for where the industry right now tells you that that's where the action is. But I would say coaching is a concept that many of you are grappling with. And in terms of pace of change, we're not in the semiconductor space, we're not doing AI, although we might talk about AI. The wealth management industry is changing incredibly rapidly and on a global basis. I'll just wrap up by saying that we're seeing this arc from Gordon Gekko to Brené Brown globally. New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, UK, Canada, across the world. Many firms, most firms, are trying to move broadly from a transactional business to a relationship business, but you have different folks at different starting places, moving at different paces, but the global trend is clear, and there's more that unites planning firms around the world than there is that makes them very different from each other.
What about you, James? Are you bringing in more coaching techniques into your role?
Yeah, I think coaching and behavioral finance and those topics are increasingly being introduced in the conferences that I'm attending. The members that are at PA, who I represent, they are increasingly looking for that type of work and trying to get educated in that. So again, ultimately, that they can serve their clients better and help them achieve that wellness that we're talking about. Yep.
One thing I see in the advisors we talk with, they're looking at just client segmentation as well. There's kind of two pulling forces happening. It's how you spend your time, how you leverage technology to be more efficient, but then you've got the pull of customers that want advice and guidance and coaching, and it's okay. How do you make that happen and be able to serve more clients efficiently? And so there's that tug and pull, and it's a balancing act. So what we've seen happening more so is looking at different and really trying to segment the clients and meet them where they want to be met. With the pandemic, now there's a strong appetite for digital consumption of information. But when it comes to the highly emotional or decision making, that's where, as an advisor, you play that important role. And so save the time and space for those, and then leverage, efficiencies for some of the operational, administrative, some of those other things. It sounds great on, stage here, but in practice, we definitely also are hearing more and more need and desire for enabling, your clients to do some things on their own. Not saying make all the decisioning and everything on their own, but there's some things that they can, be enabled. And I think research has shown too, the more engaged they are, be it putting in some of their data, looking and analyzing, or gamification and personalization and some of those things, they're more likely to take action as well. So it doesn't, sit there. And so, those are a couple of the things we see just from both the advisor view and from the end investor view. But different ways of engaging. I think also maybe bite-sized pieces. I think I can tell you, I have 2 teenage boys. They are all about instant gratification, and I want my, answer quick. Don't make this, how long? It's always like, well, how long is this going to take, right? So I think we hear that too. Is like, okay, now how do we, engage in different ways and make it dynamic, but deliver on that, advice that folks want. So they want and they need, really.
Like how you mentioned the pandemic, has that changed your business at all, James or Brian?
I have a lifestyle practice, and it has changed my practice and my business a little bit in that it gave me the confidence to work virtually. And so I live in the northeastern part of the country. My wife has told me that she's done with winters. So now we spend January and February in Portugal. And I can work from Portugal because I have the confidence to be able to work with my clients through virtual meeting. So yes, it has changed my business and my life significantly for the better.
And I'm assuming your clients too are more comfortable with the thought of working with you remotely like that.
Absolutely, yep.
Can I come over?
Absolutely. Sangria's tasty.
All right, James, my new best friend. I mean, we run a learning and development platform that trains advisors globally. So, the pandemic was obviously, biblical plague, a very bad thing. But from a business point of view, it was great. It sort of retrained everybody to be comfortable with different forms of communication, in no small part to what you guys were saying. Parents and grandparents wanted to see the kids, and they need to figure out FaceTime and Zoom. I don't think that would have been the case, or at least it wouldn't have moved at that pace had there not been, this global tragedy. So, the core issue here is how do humans communicate with other humans? It's complicated, and we just had this massively disruptive event where we are now experimenting with new ways to live our lives in every regard, whether it be our families, our personal relationships, the way that we run our businesses. And so, it wasn't that long ago that we reemerged into the world. We are still experimenting. I think it's fair to say that this new era of hybrid work and remote communication is with us, I'll just say forever. And what I don't think we know, at least I don't know, is when we are going to be regularly communicating through computer screens and not in person, what exactly is lost? We know there is something palpable that you get from the in-person communication. I mean, look at where we are, right? I mean, this is ridiculous. It's just good to see a lot of people. We're outdoors. We're, that eye contact. I mean, we've got neurochemicals flooding our brains with lots of good things when we're able to do things like that. We have lost that to some extent in the execution of good financial planning. And the question isn't when are we going to go back to the way it was, it's how do we adapt to the new environment.
Talked a bit about technology changing financial planning. Specifically, how is AI changing things, either for the better or for the worse?
I just spoke. This is a big one. So I have many views, so you guys should go first. And then
Jennifer, do you want to start? And then we'll work our way down.
Well, I think, there's been a lot of AI discussion at this festival as a whole. But I think one thing, we're definitely leveraging it. I think it can create important insights, information, but it doesn't replace that human interaction, and really planning is such an important element. So where it can, in our application, if it can feed and create those in important insights and information for an advisor to help deepen that conversation, that relationship with the client, all the better. I think it's a great to be leveraged, but it doesn't replace the human interaction and experience. So I think, in my opinion, it's additive. It should be an enabler, but it is not a replacement for that human interaction that has to be at the core.
Yeah, I 100% agree. In my travels across the country, meeting with our members, FPA members, there's been a lot of discussion about AI this year, as there's a lot of discussion here at this conference about AI. But it's been in the context of how can we use AI to help serve our clients better and also make our practices more efficient so we can serve more people. Save time by using AI for some administrative tasks like content creation, email replies, meeting summaries, cutting down that time that you're spending on functions that are less value add so you can spend more time with your clients doing the things that we do best. I like to say that until my computer screen can hand a tissue to my client, I know that my job is safe. That's how deep we get with our clients and our relationships with our clients, and AI will never be able to replace that.
For the sake of argument, I'm going to disagree. Let's take the contrarian case. We're 18 months into this, and things are only accelerating? Let's anchor specifically on the topic of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, by most models, has 4 dimensions, right? Self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, and relationship skills. You can throw leadership in there as a 5th dimension or just layer that into the relationship piece. I think we can go sort of brick by brick through that framework and say, why can't technology mimic human engagement? So specifically on the empathy piece, considering that we're never really getting together again physically most of the time. Yes, we will sometimes, but I think that ship has sailed. If any of you have played around with ChatGPT-4, if you've seen what some of the more kind of advanced directives are in terms of truly picking up a human voice, each of us could download everything we've ever texted or emailed into a closed LLM and recreate ourselves as a bot, and it would do a pretty good job just being you. It wouldn't be perfect, but that's fine. Directionally, we're going to be able to do this. By the way, like many things, I don't think I believe what I'm saying right now, but I do want to keep the door open to a bit of what I think is a casual attitude toward AI, technology not being human. The fact is that in many situations, we don't want to deal with humans. Anybody here know the name of their bank teller? No, of course not. We all use ATMs. That used to be a nice tradition where you would go see that person behind the, behind the thing. So we're 18 months into ChatGPT. Let's see where we are in 3 to 5 years. But I think if advisors think that that AI is not going to be able to replicate an empathic voice, I think there's going to be a bit of a rude awakening in the industry.
Yeah, I would just say I appreciate that perspective. And there's been a study that's been put out that examined how consumers of medical advice perceive that advice. They asked the same question to ChatGPT and then a real doctor online and got answers back. And the results were that they trusted the results from AI more, and the answers from AI were more empathetic than the answers provided by the real doctor.
So you're agreeing with me, disagreeing with myself. Okay, we're getting meta here.
No, yeah.
It's day 3. No. I'm exhausted. Let's keep going.
So you look at that and then you do question, my result that I have in that question. But first of all, doctors aren't very well known for their bedside manner. That's number one. So the answers they provide may not be as empathetic as the ones provided by AI. But what we do is and the answers and the advice we provide are so based on values and priorities of clients, whereas in medicine, often there's a correct answer. If you are suffering from this, then the correct answer is to do this. with what we do with our clients, often there are many more than just one or two answers, and the advice that we give and the advice that our client takes ultimately is based on values and priorities. It may not be the perfect answer from a financial point of view, but from an emotional, peace of mind, security point of view, that's the course of action the client takes. So there is a difference, in my opinion, between what the advice that doctors provide and what we do with our clients. And that's why I have confidence in the answer that I provide.
So I no longer know who I'm agreeing or disagreeing with here, but I'll just say that we already have the technology for each of us to have a perfect deep fake image of ourselves and to have our voice and our cadence perfectly replicated. I saw on a tweet earlier today a gentleman who didn't speak any foreign languages speaking in perfect German, because it was just filtered through some simple code. So each of us is going to be replicable, both in video and audio, in the coming years, and can be trained as an LLM on the way that we have communicated in the past by reading our emails, newsletters, and texts. So stuff's happening. I have no idea, but I find it fascinating. I am sort of, I'm taking the over on AI showing human empathy in some profound regards in the decade to come.
Change your mind after all that? Where are you at now?
I think my head's spinning over here.
We've got a little over 5 minutes left, so I did want to open it up to audience questions, see if anyone wants to ask anything of our esteemed panelists. Just raise your hand. Oh, wow, okay. We actually have questions submitted. First one, how do you leverage technology to have deeper meaning conversations with clients?
Yeah, I'll start off. I mean, we do at Shaping Wealth have a technology called the Outsourced Chief Behavioral Officer, and as part of, I mean, it's low-grade technology. It's a website, but there are opportunities to learn different ways to ask different sorts of questions. My partner Joy Leary, who's on a different panel at this very moment, is an expert at question asking, question formation, and we can help train people on having better conversations. And we don't need to be in the room. There's training protocols and training modules. There's role-playing using things like AI that it's relatively low tech. It's not even that big of a deal anymore. But I guess I would go back to James's original point about guidance. The first thing that I think is what's happening in the industry and hopefully is accelerating is the advisor recognizing her role as a guide in helping someone live the life that they want to. And once the table has been set with that virtuous move, then the opportunity to learn many different techniques and protocols is right there in the offing.
I was going to add, in terms of deepening relationship, the question moved off our screen, but what came to mind for me was just, there's different ways people want to engage. It could be sit across the table, face to face. It could be like my children who don't want to spend that much time and they just want the fast answer. But they're, and I've seen it too. There's sometimes where you see your data and it's just wrong. You're like, you want to fix it, but then if you don't have the ability to fix it, but the way to leverage technology and to be able to kind of fast track some of this less valuable, I don't want to say valuable, but value add part of the process. That's where I think technology could play a big role. It could accelerate that, take the noise and friction out of that, and then get right into the part that really matters. But again, it goes back to some want to engage. They want to sit across the table, and others don't. And I think we have to evolve. We have to there's a lot of research around different ways people want to engage, and you really, I know through interactions with customers, you get the idea of, do they want the small talk and hear about the grandkids, or are we just getting right to it and we're gonna fast track the process? It's really listening and being observant And that's why, this is a people industry, and everyone here is really good at that because we, want to engage in a way that is filling both needs on both sides of the table.
All right, next question. How do you serve entry-level clients with BFI advice in a way that is profitable and scalable?
This has to have come from a friend of mine in the audience. I don't know who. I'll just be brief because I just mentioned. So I've been writing and speaking and working with advisors in applied behavioral finance going back to 2014. And the number one question is, how do I use this stuff? It's naturally interesting because behavioral finance is on our favorite topic, which is ourselves. So how do I use this stuff in my practice? We've created this entry-level advisor engagement platform called the Outsourced Chief Behavioral Officer. We want to help you with making better decisions, form sturdier habits, achieve higher well-being, not only for your clients, but for yourself. Human-centric advice actually starts with the advisor as a human being and fans out from there. So the OCBO dashboard just tees up hundreds of pieces of content and coaching engagements, subscription model, and our booth is to the south a little bit here. Happy to talk to you about it.
All right, and our final question, kind of a fun one. A lightning round on best new software that we should not miss. You want to start, Jennifer?
I did not write that question.
We both have friends in the audience.
Yeah.
I know. No, I'm going to say this. I think if you focus on the client and what you want their experience to be, you will land in the technology, the right technology. Sometimes because I sell technology, I work for IntelliFlow, but folks come to us because they are looking for a certain piece of technology, and I always back it up and say, well, what is a problem you're really trying to solve? Because if you actually anchor in, keep the client at the center, what is it that you're trying to deliver that experience, and what does great look like? Then back in, you'll get the technology right. So I think that's just a word of advice on anybody that, there's a lot of technology and so much is changing in our industry, but just keep that as your true north. What do you want that customer experience to be? And then you can back into the technology.
No lightning round?
Oh, lightning round. Oh, I'm sorry. Wow. So, I, from a technology point of view, when I first started my practice, I was rebalancing my portfolios and doing my billing in Excel spreadsheets, and things have come a long way since then. I consider myself pretty tech forward, and I have a tech stack that serves me and my clients. Probably the most recent technology tool that I've added is Holistiplan, to really get a quick picture of the client's tax situation and observations that I can bring to the client, and saving a lot of time that, from poring over tax returns to doing it very quickly.
Brian, do you want to take it home? Key takeaway if you don't want to answer the lightning round question?
I did. I shamelessly sold my OCBO platform. No, I think this is an important conversation because the planning industry, in the grand scheme of things, it's both brand new and it's virtuous. We are truly collectively trying to make millions of other people's lives better. So having these conversations out loud at amazing events like this is exactly what we should be doing over and over again, because to James's statistics, we are still a tiny minority of the financial services industry, and what we can do to impact people's lives is profound.
Great. Wow, 2 seconds to go. You guys
That's
are
the way I roll.
Very prompt. Thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate it.